If 2023 was the year of Souls-likes, then 2024 is the year of survival games. Enshrouded is yet another survival game launching in early access today on Steam. Developer Keen Games provided me with a review copy, and after 20 hours of playtime, I'm going to show you guys how Enshrouded stands out from the rest of the genre. They could even take home title of Best Survival Game of 2024, but they need to get to work fixing one glaring issue that we're going to talk about. So let's jump right into it. Enshrouded is a cooperative survival crafting action RPG for up to 16 players. That's right, 16 players. I don't even think I have that many friends. But either way, you can choose to start a private game just for you, host a public game for you and your friends, or join in on an online game. You're also going to be able to rent dedicated servers as well. The gameplay loop of Enshrouded is pretty simple and familiar to most survival gamers. Explore, fight, and loot around the world, then use your resources to build a base and craft tools and gear so you can upgrade and take on tougher enemies. However, while you explore, you'll notice that some areas of the map are covered in fog, and this is one of the things that separate Enshrouded from other games in the genre. Within these enshrouded areas, you can only stay for so long before it consumes you. You'll see the timer at the top there, and this adds an element of danger to the world, and it really brings up the tension early on when you're trying to get around the map, or if you're trying to complete a boss fight while you are in the shroud. Your goal is to find and destroy the roots that are located in the fog in order to lift the fog from that area. So you kind of want to go around the map to make it easier for you to traverse the map. You're going to want to find those roots and dispel them, and they're usually guarded by difficult enemies. I really like this aspect of the game because it slows things down in the beginning and makes you really think about your path through the map. It adds that sense of tension, but it's not something that you have to deal with the entire time if you do find those roots. When it comes to survival elements in Enshrouded, there's a few things that they've done differently. First, they've decided to remove the need to satisfy thirst and hunger. Drinks, meals, and other snacks provide buffs and benefits to your character like increased health, stamina regen, or intelligence instead of just a basic need. I really like this because now you're no longer looking at a status bar, but instead using meals in a more interesting way. Another survival element they made much easier is repairing your gear. Weapons and tools are repaired automatically for no cost when you interact with the workbench. You just have to remember to do so. Removing these aspects allows you to focus on exploration, combat, and base building without having to micromanage your survival, and I really like that. I know some survival purists might not like that aspect, but I don't really notice that those types of things are gone. You still have to be careful if you're out for too long of a period because your weapons and tools could degrade and break. However, if you have a keen eye, you'll notice that there are repair stations in some of the bigger areas like villages and dungeons. Another feature that makes Enshrouded unique is their skill tree. You can choose to specialize in different roles or maybe do a little bit of everything. There's specific paths to follow for roles like healer and tank, or you can invest in magic and elemental damage. I think this is a great way for a large group to diversify and make Enshrouded come alive. I hope they plan to expand the skill tree or offer more impactful nodes for those that want to embrace more role-playing elements in their survival world. The world of Enshrouded is similar to that of Grounded, where you'll discover many points of interest through specific quests or just exploring the map. And believe me when I say that this map is huge. For a game launching in early access, I was really surprised at how much map there actually was. At one point, you can see that I just tried to trek north as far as I could just to see if I would reach the end, but I never did. One of the points of interest I really enjoyed on the map was the ancient spires that you come across while questing. They're main quest lines, so you're not going to miss them, but if you complete the puzzles inside, which had like jumping puzzles and different traps that you had to avoid. Once you complete that, you unlock those spires as main fast travel locations after you reach the top. And these are also the tallest towers in the entire map. So you can fast travel to them up at the top of the tower and jump off and use your glider to get around to different points of the map. It's kind of similar to Breath of the Wild. These are definitely a highlight of your exploration in Enshrouded. Speaking of moving around the map, you can craft a glider and a grapple grapple hook in Enshrouded to help get around. You may have seen it in the trailers. However, the grapple hook can only grab onto designated anchors, so you can't just grapple onto anything. And the glider is a little bit hard to control if you're trying to maneuver around instead of just going in a straight line. But there is other movement that you can do, like a nice double jump that I've been using to get to higher ground. And if you spam it, you can kind of climb a mountain like you can climb Skyrim on your horse instead of going around it. Because sometimes traveling around the expansive map can get a bit overwhelming due to the stamina system. However, you can upgrade your base altar to increase the number of bases you can place in the world, and your bases also count as fast travel points. So you can fast travel back home whenever you want and it doesn't cost anything. So trying to unlock more base upgrades would definitely help your ability to travel around the map. I've been using one base to hold everything as like my main hub, and then the other altars I've been kind of distributing among the map, like moving them out to places that I'm exploring, and some of them I just drop right before I'm about to go into a bigger difficult area if I know that there's a chance I could die, and then I'll just respawn there. Or it allows me to fast travel back, grab a bunch of heals and food, and then fast travel straight back. While exploring the world, you're going to come across a fairly diverse cast of enemies with some difficult encounters. You could face combat head on, or you could take more of a stealthy approach, which they explain in the tutorial. You'll notice most of the locations have alternate ways to approach, like I was mentioning the grapple hook anchors. You'll notice those around the outskirts, and you can kind of sneak in and get behind the enemies if that's more your playstyle. The combat feels pretty good on my Xbox controller. You can double jump, dodge, parry, and there are more combat moves that you can unlock in the skill tree, like overpower and lunge. The enemies are a bit simple in their attack pattern, but are fun to fight. However, some of the elite enemies only have like one or two moves, at least the ones that I've encountered, which is a little underwhelming and something I hope they improve in the future. Base building is a huge part of any survival game, and I think Enshrouded will definitely satisfy those of you that enjoy a little cozy cottage time or a huge barn. The building area is quite expansive, and they allow you to have a lot of creativity with the pieces and materials. There's even a 1x1 box that you can use to cut out pieces of the wall or the side of your building in order to make something cool and unique. The only awkward part to building is that any piece that's not part of the building, so anything that's not floors, ceilings, walls, stairs, etc., items like tables, lights, storage boxes, beds, etc., anything you have to craft in that realm, you have to then go into your inventory and equip it on your bar and then place it in the world. I'm hoping that there's a way to do this that I just haven't figured out yet, but it's really annoying having a full hotbar and then crafting a bunch of stuff and having to then drag everything to the hotbar to then place it into my house. I wish this was more cohesive and easier to auto slot the items you craft into the build menu. They have, however, included storage boxes that pull into your workbench from anywhere in your base, as well as the ability to stack items that are already in the box, so my survival organizers can take a sigh of relief. One cool feature in Enshrouded is the dynamic terrain. You can level the ground for building on a flat surface, you can dig out a hole in the ground, or even add terrain within the build menu. I was completely shocked to learn that I could just smack my pickaxe into the ground and dig a hole, and the first time I did this, it was to access some higher end materials, and I was really surprised when it actually worked. It could even lead you down into some cool underground areas. It's a really fun feature, and I can't wait to see what people come up with now that the game has launched. And since you can enjoy the world with up to 16 friends, you can build a cute little town together. Speaking of building something cute together, if you're enjoying this video, now would be a great time to hit that subscribe button. Alright, on to crafting. Resources, crafting, and materials seem pretty vast in Enshrouded. I haven't seen it all yet in my 20 hours, but there are many recipes for base building items, potions, meals, and quite a few armor sets, including a healer set and an archer focused one. There are also a few weapon blueprints to unlock as well, but better weapons are always found by exploring. The process of crafting gear and materials in Enshrouded can be a little frustrating, so let me explain. Some of the recipes are tied to finding survivors out in the world and bringing them back to camp. Once you bring them back to camp, it then unlocks their machines and their different recipes. These are the key quests early on until you collect all of them. So as you start adding to your crew, you're also going to add more menus to navigate through. Initially, it's really overwhelming, and you can see here between your own crafting menu, the workbench, all the other survivors and their own workshops, it's just a lot to go through to remember who you need to talk to or what you need to do to craft the item that you're trying to craft. As we get updates during the early access, I hope they find a way to simplify this or allow you to kind of combine all of those together in the same menu or automate some of it. It's also very difficult because there are special boxes where they will show up if you're trying to craft something. The materials in that box will show up, which is like a lot of other survival games. However, if you go to the kiln, you're not going to be able to pull from the box. You have to actually pull things out and then put them in the different workshops. So it really only pulls into where the recipes are and not where the actual combining of materials into a new material is, if that makes sense. All right, on to the weapons and loot. So Enshrouded has a pretty wide variety of weapons ranging from swords and maces to wands and staffs. The magic weapons also have different spells that you can find and craft. You can also choose to be a tank, healer, magic dealer, archer, whatever you want for your team. And you can use a skill tree to specialize in those type of weapons. Weapons can be crafted or found, but only found weapons will have additional attributes like increases critical chance by 10%. To unlock those attributes, you use runes that are acquired from the Fel, which is the enemy type in the Shroud, or by salvaging weapons that you don't want. So if you find a weapon that you don't want, you just salvage it, you get a bunch of runes, and now you can put those into the weapon you like to get one of the attributes active. I really like this system, but I think these weapons are static in the world, at least from what I've seen, going back and opening chests that I've already opened and they're empty. So that means that you're just always going to find the same weapon with the same perks in the same location. I also don't know what this means if you have a group, if everybody gets their instance loot or not. I didn't play the early review copy with anybody co-op, so I don't know how that's going to end up working out in co-op. Hopefully everybody gets their own weapons. Since it is static like that, you can't go back and loot it later. I feel like it'll probably be like Once Human in that way, where everybody gets their own loot. So yeah, I like this system where you have attributes, different attributes on weapons, but I don't like the fact that they are static. I don't want to always find the same weapon with the same perks in the same location. And that leads us to my biggest gripe with Enshrouded, if you can't tell, but that is the loot. After 20 hours in the game and pushing out to the farthest areas of the map that I could, I'm still finding level 5 white swords, and I'm level 9. In fact, I've seen 3 of the same type of purple mace and 2 of the same green bow with the same attributes, which wouldn't really be much of an issue if the total number of weapons I looted was up there, but I can't tell you how many times I've found secret chests in towers and villages that end up having 1 or 2 grenades inside of it. That's it. And the grenades suck, they're not good. And some of these chests are behind puzzles or hard enemies, and you only get 1 grenade. Like I went up this entire tower and I got 1 grenade in 1 chest. In other areas, there aren't even any chests or loot, even though there'll be like a small cottage off the beaten path or a secret cave or somewhere where you would expect there to be loot, or at least an adventure of some sort, a cool thing to figure out, a cool thing to see. And I wish these places had more loot to find, because coming from other games like Remnant, I will literally seek out every corner of the map and look into every cave. There are even some areas where you can pickaxe your way into hidden cellars and underground areas, but there'll be like 2 grenades down there. So this really discourages me from exploring beyond the main path, and isn't that the main excitement of a survival game? In my opinion, the loot is the #1 thing Enshrouded needs to work on first during early access. Give us weapons with randomized attributes and more of them with higher rarity the further up the map you travel. Overall, Enshrouded is an amazing entry into a very competitive genre this year, and I highly recommend it. I'm sure Keen Games will be working on improvements for the game as we enjoy early access on Steam, so if you'd like to support them, definitely go pick it up. Also, you can find me streaming some gameplay over on twitch.tv/abbyhour if you want to stop by and say hi. But that's all for this early review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.